think the movie really challenges our understanding of good and evil.
American History X in a few sentences.
I think the movie challenges our perception of good and evil. It also shows that just because you're a man and white does not mean that you're not going to be vulnerable to exploitation. How about you?
I would look at it as a movie on transformation and ideology, the danger of ideology, exploitation. So this is about two brothers. They get drawn into this ideology of neo-Nazism.
So because Nazis, they admired Aryan, white skin race, and that's what they're embracing, but also because of that they're also against immigrants.
Who do you hate, Danny?
I hate anyone that isn't white Protestant.
Why?
They're a burden to the advancement of the white race. Some of them are alright, I guess.
None of them are fucking alright, Danny, okay? They're all a bunch of fucking freeloaders. Remember what Cam said? We don't know them, we don't want to know them. They're the fucking enemy.
And they're so into this ideology, they're so radicalized and brainwashed. They 100% they think this is truth.
There is this guy called Cameron who is the mastermind behind their group. He starts to exploit vulnerable people such as Derek, the older brother, and his younger brother Daniel. And because they're so lost in their own world, and they live in poverty as well. So this Cameron guy, he starts to feed them these ideologies that the things that you don't have in life is because of these immigrants that have come to the country and taken them from you. If you don't have your dad, it's because of the immigrants who are the reason for your dad not being here. So he starts to blame everything on immigrants or people who are not of Aryan race. And Cameron then starts to build this group of people. Now, the group is led by Derek, the older brother, who is very courageous actually, and he's a very intelligent man also.
And this just shows that behind every ideology, there's usually a person who's standing behind it and using vulnerable people to fight for his cause, while he himself never risks himself.
Psychologically, I'd say you could say maybe it's social identities, group identity.
Yes.
So these people, such as Derek and Daniel, when they go into this group or become part of this group, and whoever is part of this group, they're expected to behave in a certain way, to act in a certain way. So, for example, you do not have any encounters with people outside of the Aryan race. If people don't have the blue eyes and the sort of white skin, then they're not worthy.
With all that in mind, the movie comes to a climax where some black guys, they come to rob Derek's house. And he obviously, with his ideology in mind, he sees it justified to get out there and shoot them. And he kills them.
Kills two of them.
Kills two of them. And he ends up in prison and with a 3 years prison sentence. And now this is where he starts his transformation. But we don't see the transformation from the beginning. What we see is Derek coming out, and he looks completely different. You know, he's got his hair grown from that skinhead, and he looks so much calmer. He looks like a completely different person. And this is, I think, the credit goes to his acting. When he was a neo-Nazi, he acted it, and when he was transformed, he became a normal person, and he acted
the actor
it.
himself.
Actor himself. Edward Norton is his name?
Yes, yeah.
Masterful acting. I think he was great. Nobody else could have done this except him.
Yeah.
So when he comes out of prison, he's changed. But what he sees after 3 years is that his brothers become part of that group. And
so Daniel has become part of the
yes,
group. Yeah.
The younger brother. And he wants to save his brother from this ideology and this hatred. And yet we don't yet know what's happened to him. Why has he changed? Then he narrates the story of what happened to him in prison, where he realized that, you know what, all of these ideologies, they didn't really mean much. We are much more similar than we think we are. It's only when we become groups, it's very easy to dehumanize the other group and start feeling hatred for them and justifying your actions. and throwing your lack of success in life onto other people, kind of lack of responsibility.
The movie shows the principal of the school who has got two PhDs.
Yeah.
He's of Black American ethnicity background. And initially, when we sort of see back into Derek's life, we see Derek who's gone to prison. We see that initially he's very fond of his principal, and he comes home and he talks to his dad about the principal. And the dad is like, you know what, he's a black man, don't listen to him. These guys, he's probably got a job over somebody else who deserved it more than him. And you see the dad actually planting seed in Derek's head, and Derek then starts planting the seed into Daniel's head, and that's how it spirals. The movie shows you how it spirals. It's such a great movie. It has a lot of depth, which I don't think this video will give us enough time to go into. Ultimately, Derek, when he goes to prison, he realizes that all his ideologies, all his beliefs were basically Cameron's beliefs, and they're quite baseless. For example, one of the things before he goes to prison, we see him arguing with his sister because he's saying, for example, the criminal justice system has got more black people in it because more black people are committing crimes. And, they're destroying the country. His sister, on the other hand, is actually arguing against that. She's saying that, well, maybe that's because they are unfairly tried and brought to justice. We are unfair to them. And there's this heated argument, and he goes into prison and he becomes friends with this black man.
He's forced to work with this black man.
Initially, yes.
In the laundry section of prison. And it's only over time when he realized, what happens to him in prison, and who he thought are his friends and allies, the white guys, they betray him. And he sees that, behind the scenes, they don't really believe in these ideologies. They just use it when they feel convenient, but they don't truly believe in it. Anyway, eventually he starts to become more engaged with this black person that he's working with. And he realizes that, the stories that they exchange, that they have much more in common than they thought.
One day, Derek asks his friends why his friend is in prison, and his friend says, because I stole a TV. And as I was coming out of the shop, the police was standing there. Yes, silly me. The police was standing there, and as they caught me, I dropped the TV on the policeman's foot. And I got 6 years in prison. Derek initially doesn't believe the guy. He thinks, you can't be in prison for 6 years just because you stole a TV. And then he realizes that it's actually true. Whereas Derek himself is in prison for 3 years for killing 2 men. That's when his ideas starts to get challenged, and his identity, you see his identity taking a new form where he starts to question things. He sees that whatever he's been fed from a young lad, a very vulnerable lad, by Cameron and his dad and all these other people, they're actually very baseless. And these black men who he's encountered, and he encounters many of them in prison, then none of them are like that. And also, actually, the one person that he respects a lot is a black man, is his principal.
Again, it shows sometimes some of our experiences, although it seems like, it's, all hope is lost and we cannot see any positive in it. Sometimes there's good in suffering. There's a couple of things I'm going to mention that I took away from this movie. One of them that it surprised me was the conversation at the dinner table, where his father was telling him about, all this equality and don't believe them. I used to think that these conversations, the woke culture and equality and all that is for today, and this is new. But watching this movie, I realized that they were having the same conversations in the 90s.
What equality are you referring to?
Well, this idea that if a certain colored person gets a job, it's because of his color, not because he's an expert. Just because they're minorities, just because they're blacks, they are privileged in society.
So you're saying that there's this belief currently that ethnic minorities have got advantages?
There is this debate, yes. And I thought this is a new debate, and it didn't exist back in the day. But this movie shows that 3 decades ago, those conversations were still happening. We always think whatever we go through in our modern day, all our ideas are new. But then A lot of times I realize I've seen in books and literature that no, they're not. It's repetition.
It certainly challenged my perspective as well, especially in the last year where there have been numerous riots outside of hotels for immigrants. All this time, whenever I've watched the news, I've sort of categorized these people, these rioters, as certain types of people, quite unpredictable, violent, horrible people, I thought. But watching this movie, it made me think about them in a different way, that maybe these people themselves who are rioters, these people who are trying to hurt immigrants and other people, maybe they are also victims of other people, more powerful people, who are guiding them and who have exploited these guys.
Yeah, so I think we need to reflect sometimes. If you're following an ideology, we need to question whether is that our ideology? Did we discover it ourselves, or is this ideology planted by somebody else?
It's a good point.
But we don't realize if it's planted. The other thing I took away from this movie, and I think it's interesting, is that just because we change doesn't mean that our past is not going to catch up with us.
It's the baggage.
Yes, so this movie shows that sometimes, although you've moved on and you've changed, the past can catch up. It can follow you.
And that's why it's important, I think, this movie is telling us to just be careful. If you're going to act based on ideology, it doesn't have to be neo-Nazi ideology. This movie was based on that, because it's quite, they can be quite extreme, can't they? But if you're going to embrace an ideology, if you're going to act on it, especially, think carefully. Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah.
Did you feel that your own biases was challenged after watching this movie?
No, I've reached a point where I recognize my biases most of the time. So I don't think I have much biases. Or do I?
Oh, maybe you do.
Do you think your biases?
Yes, like I said, I think, I was biased towards rioters, towards people who are against immigrants and of ethnic minorities. And this movie 100% challenged my biases, and now I see them under a different light. I don't see them as good and evil. That's why I said I think the movie really challenges our understanding of good and evil. That these people are not necessarily evil. Maybe they're puppets of other people who are just exploiting them. Do you think Derek changed anything after leaving prison?
He didn't change anything. And, what's interesting to me is that Derek was the leader before he went to prison. He was the one who was psyching them up before going out. He was the one who was leading them and, giving
His
them
group.
the energy. Yeah, his group. When he comes out, they look at him like a god, because there's a difference when you talk about your ideology and actually willing to go to prison for it or die for it. It just gives you another status in the group when they see that you've actually suffered for your cause. Of course, they're going to look at you as bigger than a leader now. So when he comes out, they look at him like a god. But then when they realize that he doesn't have those beliefs anymore, they turn against him. Now they become the outsider to him. So it's very easy for us to become insider and outsider, even in ideologies that we think we are part of. So every man for himself.
If people are part of a group, we sort of think that, well, if you don't believe it, why are you still there? Maybe they cannot leave the group anymore. So Derek in this movie, he was, again, from the beginning, he was very courageous. He was brave. And that's why he was leading. He was like the soldier, the main soldier. So when he came out of the prison and he wanted to leave this group, this neo-Nazi group, he was quite comfortable to do that.
Yeah.
But not everybody might be like him.
Because don't forget, that in a lot of ideologies, if you leave the group, you become a traitor. And they can come after you. So it's not very easy. And that happens in religions as well. It's not very easy for you to one day get up and publicly announce that I'm leaving
this certain religion,
ideology, whatever it is, right? Because then they look at you like a traitor. They're not going to look at you like somebody, they're not going to be interested in, okay, tell us what made you leave. Maybe we can learn from you. No, because they look at their own ideologies and religions as the ultimate truth.
So maybe there are other problems in the society that's leading people towards these ideologies and these groups.
as long as there are people like, is it Campbell?
Cameron.
Cameron. As long as there are people like him, and as long as there are vulnerable people in society, this will always go on. So again, this movie shows that things don't really change. We're just in a cycle. This cycle could repeat itself.
Yes, you can remove Derek, but
You
somebody
remove
else is
Derek.
going to take
Somebody
his
else takes his
place.
place.
Because again, is there a problem with society for keeping people in poverty, for keeping people out of education?
Yeah.
Because these people like Derek, people like Daniel, they're actually really, really good people. They were lovely men and young man as well. And they're just so kind, they're very sweet, but when they go into this ideology, they actually become quite aggressive. They don't have any peace because they have one mission in life.
And I think that wraps it up.
Yes, it does.